Hello, sweet moon people. How are you? It's Molly. Welcome to this show and tell video. So I'd been meaning to do this video for you for quite some time, and honestly, I think I was just overthinking it, overcomplicating it, and I thought what would be fun and straightforward and simple is to just show you a bunch of magical books to give you ideas. So here we are. I'm going to show you some magical books to give you ideas. And I'd like to start by saying this is the book that, if you are familiar with the channel, that you are probably the most familiar with. This is the Grimoire, which is getting very, very chunky. And I wanted to show you the other kinds of magical books that are possible for you to make. So this, for me, is a magical art journal, but there are lots of forms that you could use should you wish to. So what I'm going to show you today is a quick tour of the collection of magical books that I have made over time. So grab yourself a cuppa, get comfortable, and let's do a little bit of exploring. So to begin our magical library tour, I wanted to show you what I do with segments of my art journal that fall out. I just make them into their own individual signatures and make kind of a belly band for them. These are fabric and they have prints on them. There's some sewing details. Some of them are stamped and made of paper, but this is an option for you if you have a big, chunky grimoire like this. If you're not insistent on keeping it all as one giant book, this book will be bound into one monster volume once it's completed, but as you can see, I still have quite a few pages to go before we cross that bridge. So in the meantime, I use belly bands to keep them together. This is an early book that I made. That's just a stitched together book with bookboard. This is a way for me to keep collages together. These are all thematic collages. You don't necessarily have to make a book thematic. I just like to do it that way. But this could be a fun way if you like working with lots of different kinds of mixed media. You create all the pages separately and then you combine them together at the end instead of working through a found book. So that is, this one was an art journal made specifically on the theme of her speak. The second magical book I want to share with you, this is a garden journal. Ooh, that has some extra moss on it. And this is a collection of altered playing cards that I used to document what was happening in my garden for a growing season, what was naturally occurring, what I planted, what I noticed, magical attributes of wildlife. So these are all playing cards, and then it's bound together. I used a keychain, but you could use a binder ring or a ribbon or a vintage earring. Some spider, a little bit of painted detail, hand-painted paper there on a bit of bookboard. But this is a fun way to create a book as you go. I have a full detailed flip of this book if you're interested on Patreon. This is a book that some of you may be familiar with. This is a Spirits of Yule altered board book. So it's a board book that I picked up at a secondhand shop, I think for 10 cents, but it has these big chunky board pages inside that are great for working with mixed media. And it has a little ribbon closure. And this was made with Mod Podge, tissue paper, hot glue, and wax layering for this kind of faux encaustic feeling. And This book is full of watercolor, lots of pockets and illustrations. I also have a full flip as well as a process diary of this book on Patreon. There are so many ways to create a magical book that isn't necessarily about specifically recording a recipe. A grimoire does not have to be a magical cookbook. It can be, and that's a wonderful option. But there are so many ways that we can record our journeys and express our magical identities through bookkeeping that aren't necessarily about just recording our research. So that's part of why I'd like to show you some of these artist book grimoire versions. And speaking to recording one's journey, the next book in the Magical Library collection is a thorough recording of a magical journey. This is a book I created to house ancestral magic, particularly folk magic practices. This is a visual compendium of my research and experiences, and this is created from a found book as well. It was a cookbook, and inside, it is not quite as it seems. It is not quite a book. It is a book box. So use the ribbon to lift the cards out, and each one of these cards is an experience and documentation of ancestral magic practices. I give a thorough description on how to create this book and what's going on in all of these images on a very recent Grimoire Club tour, just to give you some ideas. What was fun about creating this kind of box book is that it's really about book as visual poetry and visual poetry as a form of magical documentation. I had a really wonderful teacher in art school that introduced me to the idea of book being anything that opens and reveals, that a book does not necessarily need to contain pages. A book does not necessarily need to be a codex to function as a book. And that's an idea that I've run with for years and continues to inspire me to this day. And that's part of why I wanted to show you this canister book. So this is a poetry canister. Let's see, it says Muse on the top. And this is created from a tea container that I've created an assemblage sculpture on top, and then contains scrolls of poetry on the inside. So if you are into poetry or recipes or short form writing or creating illustrations, this could be a fun way for you to house pieces of your magical library as well. This piece is a book I call my wilderness book, and it is created using a found book, again, a large children's book that I have cut the pages out to make use of the cover and the spine. And this is a collection of cut paper art spells. Open it up. And it is put together as a folio. So the pages are not bound, they are loose on the inside. This is another book that I've given a highly detailed tour of on Grimoire Club if you would like to learn more about how to create this kind of book and work with a cut paper journal. So this is a book that some of you might already be familiar with. This is the Scruffy Grimoire, featured in Art Magic, the book, How to Become an Art Witch and Unlock Your Creative Power. And this is a 3-signature, soft, I love that it's soft and squishy and crunchy, soft, scruffy grimoire that's made to be unprecious on purpose. So this is a book that you can make with shopping bag paper or leftover wrapping paper or any kind of paper that you'd find in a secondhand store, or you could save from the recycling bin. I love a soft cover. I've used a bracelet clasp to close the book. There's some other little, lots of bits here. And what I love about a soft magical book is that you can stuff this in a backpack or in your go bag and bring it with you to sketch or to write in at the library. It's a travel size, easily packable kind of book, which I think is really fun. And it's the kind of book that you could easily add more signatures should you choose. So if you're interested in learning how to create this book, I show you how step by step in Art Magic. So I'll leave a link to that book in the down bar as well. This is a recent magical book creation. I mostly wanted to create a book with feet. So that was part of the motivation for this book. But the second motivation for creating this book was to develop an art spell to create a space for thoughts that need somewhere to live outside of your head. And so we came up with the Demonarium, and this is a recent Patreon tutorial. So you can see the closure of this book is a pin that pulls out. Show you that. And then on the inside opens up to reveal some illustrations. And these are all demons. This is a place for inner demons to live so that they can stop bothering you. So this is a combination of illustration, some stamping, This is a book that I've called The Dream Decks, and it is heavily inspired by Robert Moss's Sidewalk Oracles. He describes in that book how he writes down all of his dreams on index cards and uses them as a form of divination in his personal practice. And I loved this idea, but I decided I wanted to create a visual dream decks. So all this is a Rolodex that has been altered. And each one of the cards contains writing or images from a dream. I also have a full process diary and detailed flip of this book available on Patreon as well. But this could be a really fun way for you to write down dreams, to collect prompts, to write down recipes. I know lots of folks are always interested in ways to create herbals. This might be a solution for you, a fun way for you to work. And I love this kind of book because some folk feel discouraged about not being able to complete a giant spread or fill up a giant book right away. It's okay because it's about the process. And there's something really, really satisfying about jumping in and creating one little card in a sitting and watching those cards accumulate. And the last book I have for you today in our magical library tour is a little abundance journal. This book is designed to feel like a birthday party when you open it. And this is where I keep lots of images and ideas, writing spells, charms for feeling abundant and feeling gratitude and really enjoying life. So there's a little Jupiterian sigil on the outside. This is a folio that has a wrap closure, and we'll see if we can fit this all on camera. So we open it up, and inside, right away, there is a pocket. And I like to include lots of little bits. This is a little key tag. This is some leftover laminate. I also like to use lots of paper clips as a way to incorporate imagery. I just recently did a big, super detailed flips of all the ways that you can use corner pockets and create paper clips, and working with ephemera in your book on Grimoire Club as well. This is a little pocket. And then this is an envelope pocket. And there's this sort of Jupiterian figure on the inside. And then here is sewn into a little flap, so it makes a little folio. We made these bits of abundance rice for spellbound snail mailers this month, and I loved them so much that I wanted to include some in my book. And a Xerox of an illustration. I like to reuse lots of my own artwork by Xeroxing it or reprinting it and recoloring it or using it as a background to work mixed media on top of, so you can get lots of mileage from your own drawings and your own artwork. Open, and it continues to flip. This is a little vintage illustration, hand-painted postcard. It continues to flip. This book expands quite a bit. That's very Jupiterian, isn't it? And then recipes on the inside, sigil for hidden treasure. This is kind of fun. One of my very happiest memories from kidhood is playing with chocolate coins. And so that's exactly what this is. I took the netting from the bag of chocolate coins to make a new bag for the wrappers of chocolate coins that I have put cardboard inside of so that it lays flat, and pressed them inside, and this just feels like such a little treasure from my kidhood. We used to use chocolate coin wrappers as a form of currency as kids. So we had whole shoe boxes full of those rustling gold coin wrappers. That was fun. And then a little flap here for some oils. This lovely Empress card that was sent to me by a snail mail friend. Thank you so much, dear. These are kind of fun. These are tickets. These are available in the store. I have ephemera packets up right now for you for art magic journaling. I'll leave a link to those in the down bar as well if you feel like visiting the shop. Redeem your joy at the main gate. But I wanted those in my abundance journal as well. This is on the Wayback Machine. Originally, this was an abundance altar demo for Patreon, and I built it into this book. So inside, the background is the Empress from the Coloring Book of Spells, and filled with all kinds of goodies. The Mushroom of Good Fortune. And some pirate treasure, because where is a witch without her pirate treasure? And this will actually stand up if you want it to. And then on the back, there's this beautiful Maxfield Parrish print, and a bit of writing. I like to use scraps from the laminator and packaging. I find those to be really interesting embellishments. More paper clips. This is a tag that I've collaged and created a flap with. This is a potato printed envelope to bring more of that earth magic, abundance feeling. And in this envelope, then I just have a few things that make me feel lovely when I open it up. A little perfume bottle. I wish you could smell it. I'm big on putting scented oils and perfumes onto my magical books. This is a little repurposed illustration that I thought to be particularly mercurial. I created that. And I also like to keep birthday cards. If you ever need a moment to remember that you're loved, look at your birthday cards. And this is a gorgeous one that my mother-in-law sent me this last year. And there's nothing that makes me feel quite as abundant as a big, glittery cupcake. Wish big. So I really hope you enjoyed this whirlwind tour of the magical library, and that it gives you lots of ideas to create magic in your own books and in your own life. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and visiting, and for being you, moon babies. And until we speak again, witch on, witch boldly, and be well, my friends. Bye for now.